My name is Matt Biak. I was born in Denver, Colorado, raised in Sacramento, California, or Folsom, right next to the prison. And yeah, I'm 22 years old, and I'm going to NAU now for majoring in psychology.
Cool.
Well, after high school, it went downhill pretty quick. I kept playing music all around Sacramento, getting into some bands, and life was, at least in the music world, it was getting pretty good. I was making a name for myself and getting somewhere with what I love doing. And but yeah, so I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months after that, I tried Folsom Lake Community College to please my parents, and I showed up to about 3 classes and had to withdraw. Couldn't do it. Getting high was a lot more important. So yeah, just I mean, it was a constant thing. Just finding the drugs, finding any way to get out of myself. And it started with the pot, and then eventually, went to the coke and morphine, and then I walked into my buddy's house one day. This was back when I was still in high school, but he had some needles on the counter, and I was looking at him like, "What are you doing?" And before I knew it, it was in my arm. And I mean, I just, growing up as this little kid with his training wheels on his bike, I never thought a million years I'd be that guy. After I dropped out of college, I went over to a friend's house one night. This was in October 2008. And I was wearing some baggy sweatpants, and I had a needle in my pocket, and it fell out. And these were friends that didn't use like I used. So this girl, Jenny, saw it, and she picked it up, and she was like, "Matt, what is this?" And so they circled me and were yelling at me and were telling me I had such a promising life ahead of me, and I didn't want to hear it, so I drove off, and they chased after me, and yada yada yada. It turned out that they broke through to me that night, and so the next day I realized I had a problem. I talked to my mom about maybe going to rehab, and then she gave me one last night to kind of go get it out of my system. And that night was it was rough, because it was like I knew I was going to rehab the next day. I knew everything I knew in my life was over at that point. So I purposely tried to do too many drugs to ensure that I wouldn't wake up the next day. But lucky for me, I can say that now looking back, but lucky for me, I made it to the next day, and I wasn't really coherent on the plane ride out. They sent me out to Montana for a few months. So yeah, they sent me to a wilderness treatment program. That was a cool experience though. That was they just put you out in the middle of Montana, in the middle of nowhere. You work on a ranch for a month, and then you go out backpacking with like 7 other guys for I don't know, we went out for like 3 weeks, and negative 30 degrees, 70-pound packs, coming off of dope. It was an experience, that's for sure. I definitely learned a lot about myself out there. From Montana, they referred everybody to halfway houses around the country, and they gave everybody 3 places to go. But for me, for some reason, Prescott, Arizona was the only choice I had. So I went to this place called the Prescott House, and that was a rough place. The therapy, you wake up at 5 in the morning, you go to a meeting, you come back, you clean your house. You got groups that get really intense, people are calling you on your shit, and it gets really uncomfortable. So after a month of that, I said, I can't do this anymore. So I had my friend who I met up in Montana from Phoenix come pick me up. We went down to Phoenix for a while. I couch hopped for a couple of months, got high. Some more bad things happened. We ended up dropping this kid off up at the ER because he stopped breathing. I don't, to this day, know what happened to him, but
That's crazy.
it's just kind of the things that happen when you're living the life I was living. You know.
That's right. You know, now, when did you realize that moment that you got to go now to go back to school?
Well, it took me a while. It took me a long time. I went back to the Prescott house because my family wouldn't talk to me anymore. So, you know, I went there for 3 more months. They kicked me out. I went to a halfway house for a while, started getting high again, got in trouble with the law for selling heroin in a halfway house, which was a pretty low move. Smart at the time because all my clientele lived right next door. But anyway, so I got in trouble with the law. I was facing 2.5 years in prison. And at the time I was hanging out with people in AA who were sober, and I was still hanging out and getting high with people who weren't. And, you know, I was seeing these people who were sober, their lives were getting better. I was hanging out with these people who were getting high, and I ended up overdosing one night, and, you know, they thought it was a good idea to take off all my clothes, put me outside in January, in the middle of January, and, you know, that was their best idea. So I woke up, came to 40 minutes later, and just made that decision that, like, I need to do something with my life. You know, this isn't what I'm supposed to do. So I got with a buddy of mine, Albert, who was the owner of the halfway house at the time. He set me up with the Yavapai Community College, and I started that journey. That was 2.5 years ago, or 3 years ago now. Yeah, I was right the first semester. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never really done college before. I was 21, or no, I was 20 at the time. So yeah, I was seeing all these people younger than me going through classes, breezing through it, and I was struggling. I'm still kind of ADD, coming off drugs, you know, thinking I'm Mr. Big Badass because I sell heroin, but, you know, I got a pretty good reality check going into college that nobody cares about that, you know. That's not the real world. So yeah, I got through college. I ended up working at a treatment center after I had about a year sober. So I worked at a treatment center helping guys new in sobriety, going through the same thing I went through a couple of years prior to that. That was an awesome experience, and that kind of guided me into what I wanted to do at NAU, going into psychology and therapy and helping people out. But yeah, after I had injured my shoulder working there, doing sober softball, and started taking some prescribed drugs from the doctor, and ended up stealing from the treatment center I was working at and shooting dope again, and going to work and telling these kids how messed up their lives were, and going home and getting high. And so eventually it caught up to me. My fiance now convinced me that I had to get honest with my job and with the people I love and with my family. So I did that. That was May 24th. Somehow through all that, my last semester getting high, I was able to get straight A's. Blows my mind. I don't know how that happened, but that allowed me to get into NAU. So now I'm here in Flag. I'm living with. I just proposed to my fiance 2 weeks ago. You know, life's